Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to our second session. Today we are having a very interesting topic on why do bad things happen to good people. In fact, this question was asked to me some 30 years ago when I met a gentleman. I could still remember his name, Victor Esguerra. He's an Australian, but Filipino nationality, of Filipino background. And he was interested in Islam at that time. So I brought him. We were in Singapore, and I brought him to the Muslim Converts Association. And he read many. He bought many books, and he studied a little bit about Islam. The reason was because he felt that Islam had the solution to much of the world's problem. So he was really pursuing, studying a lot about Islam, and Alhamdulillah, you know, he had gained a lot of knowledge. Except he asked me this question: that why do bad things happen to good people? At that time, in the 90s, I remembered the African continent was suffering a lot. They had a lot of malnutrition, they had a lot of death, they had a lot of problems. And um, and Victor Esguerra, being a person, a man of the world, he felt that he wanted to find solution to the world's problem. And and mashallah. So when he came to this uh, question about why do bad things happen to good people, and he asked me, unfortunately at that time I wasn't able to answer. That was because I wasn't familiar yet with the Quran. Yeah. But after years later, when I start studying the Quran, and mashallah, I found the answer. I hope today that one day Victor Esguerra will watch this video, and so that this will be in reply of his question some 30 years ago. Yeah. And hopefully that he will find the true solution to the world's problems today. Now, talking about the world's problem, there is one particular chapter in the Quran, the Surah Kaf, or the cave. This is a very interesting um, chapter or surah because of many reasons. One of his reasons is that in the surah there are 4 stories, and these 4 stories actually are solution to today's problems. Okay. In fact, can I can we have the first slide, please? As you can see, today man is always in pursuit of 4 things. That is, in life, right? They're in pursuit of power, in pursuit of the second slide, please. We are in pursuit of power. We are in pursuit of wealth. We are in pursuit of wisdom, and some are in pursuit of faith. Right? These are the 4 things that commonly in any generation we are always in pursuit of this. But we must remember that even these are good things in life, they can be misused. So in Surah Al-Kahf, we are taught about the fitna or the pitfalls of wisdom, faith, power, and wealth, right? These 4 things which are important. Now, today we don't have the time to cover all of them or to cover the entire Surah Kahf or the 4 stories. In fact, today's question about why do bad things happen to good people, the answer is in the first what you call this? It's in the second story, which is about Moses trying to acquire wisdom. All right? Okay, so let's get to the story first. Let me brief to you the stories. But before I start the story, let me also explain. You will find that the Quran, 1/3 of the Quran is or has stories, is covered with stories. Why? Why does Allah tells us so many stories? stories because from stories we can learn much, much more than if we were just given a statement. Okay, stories make us remember things much better, and we can see things much clearer. All right. So that's why 1/3 of the Quran is in stories. And also, we human, we love stories. Even as a child, I'm sure you can remember that, you love to have bedtime stories, right? You like to hear bedtime stories. And when we're grown up, we like to see movies, right? Okay. So coming back now to my story, um, we are going to today do the story of Musa alayhi salam, Moses, meeting Khidr. Okay, at the time of the Prophet Moses, um, Moses was asked, "Are you the most intelligent or wisest man on earth at this time?" So Moses, being a prophet, so he said, "Yes, most probably." But Allah corrected him. Allah told him, "Moses, there are other people who are given other knowledge, and they may be much wiser than you." Now, what would we do when we hear such a thing? Some of us may get angry, right? Say, "Oh, I'm not the wisest when I'm a prophet." But not for Moses. Moses was humble enough. He said, "If that is so, I would like to learn." Okay, he says, "Please give me the opportunity to learn, to acquire this wisdom that I do not have yet." So Allah says, "Okay, go to such and such a place. When such a thing happen, then you will meet this man called Khidr, and he is the man who at the moment has more knowledge than you do in certain areas." So Moses took the trouble to journey and look for this man called Khidr. Okay. Now, of course, there are some description that he will meet this man when the fish jumps into the sea and so on. I will not go into those details because what I like to get is to the part where what are the lessons learned from the stories, and how does this story shows us or can answer to our question, this burning question about why do bad things happen to good people. All right. Okay. So without much ado, um, Moses met Khidr, and then he asked Khidr, he says, "Can I learn from you? Can I accompany you and learn from you certain things? Because I've been told that you have more knowledge than I do. I would like to learn. If you don't mind, take me as your student, and I will follow you and learn from you as much as I could." So what did Khidr said? The Khidr said, because Khidr has, something special about him, yeah? I remember Khidr said, "I don't think you have the patience, Moses, to learn from me this wisdom which Allah has given me." But Moses, he's a persistent man, he said, "No, please, please, I'm sure I will be patient. Don't worry. Just tell me, what are your terms and condition, and I will abide." So Khidr said, "Okay, fine. If that's the case, there is only just one condition. If you want to learn from me and you want to follow me, that is, don't question whatever I do." Okay. So Moses was, wow, quite happy. He said, "Just that? Don't question you? Wow. Sure, sure. I'm sure I can do that." You know? So Moses was very excited, okay, and said, "Sure, that seems so simple." So you see, here we learn something also. Sometimes, we can be overconfident about things. We think that we have that patience, right? Okay, never mind. So anyway, so they went on a journey together. Okay, there's another thing that I would like to also highlight at this part is that sometimes to learn, to acquire wisdom, it's not necessary just from reading or just from studying or from the theory. Sometimes wisdom need to be experienced. Okay, so you need to go through it. to gain that, get that wisdom. Nothing, not everything can be taught by reading or by studying. Okay, sometimes you need to travel with people, and to be with people, not to travel, but to be with people. Okay, to learn from them personally. Okay, right. So okay, so Kidder said, right, if you want to learn from me, you can come along with me on this journey. But remember, do not ask any questions over my action. So Moses says, wow, sure, okay, we'll do that. So they went on this journey. The first thing that happened is that they needed to cross a river. So they met a very kind fisherman who said, no problem, if you need to go across the river, let me give you a free ride on my little boat. So they went on the boat ride across to the river. When they got across, and when the fisherman had gone down, what Kidder did was to break the boat, a certain portion of the boat. He broke the boat. When Moses saw this, oh my God, he can't take it. He said, in his mind, why would this man, a good man, break the boat of someone who has helped us? This fisherman was a kind man. He has, given us a free ride. Why would Kidder, you know, being a godly man, would do such a thing? This is, oh, but Moses dare not ask. Why? Because he remembered that he has taken the promise to not to question anything that he sees on this trip. Okay? So, but in his heart, he was burning, to ask, why such a good man do such a thing, such a bad thing? Okay? So they continue on. As they walk along, they met a boy. And you know what happened? Kidder just killed this boy. When Moses saw that, oh, he really couldn't take it anymore. You know, so he really, this time, it came out from him. It says, but why do you kill this boy? You don't even know him. He has done nothing wrong. Why? Oh, then Kidder reminded him, do you remember your promise that you will not question whatever I do? Then Moses realized, and he bite his tongue and he said, oh dear, yes, I remembered. Okay, but in his heart, it was like burning. Why would somebody whom they don't know, who has not done anything, no wrong, nothing, gets killed for no rhyme or reason, you know? But as you say, we can't. So they moved on now and they arrived in the village. Now, when they arrived at this village or this town, they went knocking on some doors to find for accommodation and food. Now, in Islam, let me tell you that hospitality is part of Islam. For a traveler, uh, we are supposed to provide a traveler who asks at least 3 days of accommodation and food. Okay, this is part of their what you call this, their rights, the rights of a traveler. Now, you see, Islam is so more than fair. It's so kind and generous. Can you imagine today? Will we invite a stranger or anybody who comes on our door, knocking at our door, and said, "Can I stay with you? Can you give me an overnight stay, even one night, and feed me?" I'm sure you will think that these people are crazy, right? But actually, that is part of Islam, how you should do good to others. Yeah, and it is the rights of the traveler to get accommodation and food for 3 days. Okay, but of course, in this case, Kidder and Moses did not ask for free accommodation or food. They knocked on the doors and they were asking for jobs. They said, do you have any job to do that we can exchange for our stay and our food? But you know what happened? This town, the people are like us now. They just slammed the door. They said, how can all these beggars, why do we want to entertain them? And besides, we don't know them, the strangers all. This is what we would not normally do, right? Yeah. So They went to a few houses and they didn't get any good response. So finally they walked out of that town. As they were walking out, they saw some people trying to build a wall. And you know what? Kidder told Moses, go and help build that wall. Oh, Moses looked at him and said, what? You want me to help them build the wall after how they treated us? They slammed the doors at us. They won't give us our rights of at least some accommodation and some food, even when we offered them to work for them. And now you want me to build this wall for free? So Kidder looked at Moses and said, remember, you are not supposed to ask, just follow my instruction and, be quiet. Then Moses remembered, but still in his heart was burning, right? So he continued, he go ahead and build and help build that wall. So after building the wall, he said, please tell me, I really cannot take it. You know, I've seen three things that have happened on this journey. You broke the boat of someone who's done you good. You did bad things. You killed somebody that didn't do anything to you, didn't that you don't even know, and now people do bad to you and you do good to them. How can this be? This is not justice. This is not right. I cannot take it anymore. Please tell me, because I cannot believe that a man that God said is as wise and as good as you can do such things. So Kidder looked at him and smiled and said, okay, I will tell you. Remember, didn't I tell you you won't have the patience uh, to acquire this wisdom? So Moses said, never mind. It really bothers me so much. I really cannot continue this journey. So he says, okay, I will tell you. But after I've told you, then you cannot continue this journey with me. So Moses agreed. So he said, well, the first situation when I broke the boat was because Allah had told me that in a few days' time, the army of this place will be coming to collect good boats, all right, for the king, because the king is preparing for a battle where he needs boats and he's confiscating boats from his people. Because of the goodness of this man who has given you a free ride across, and he is also basically a good man, Allah did not want him to suffer the loss. Okay? If his boat was taken by the army, he will not have a boat to go fishing nor be able to feed his family. So, because of Allah's mercy on him and knowing what is going to happen, Allah had asked me to break that boat, break it in such a way that it could be repaired after the army had left. Okay, so that the army will not confiscate this boat. He will be able to repair this boat and he can still go out fishing and feed his family. So you see how beautiful Allah's plan is, right? And not only that, because of his good deed to us, although it's so small, Allah has rewarded him not only that he could go fishing and feed his family, but he would be able to even feed the village people and help the village people. Because remember, all the other village people who had boats, their boats has been confiscated. Okay, so they all now depend on him. So here we learn sometimes a very small deed that you do, Allah will reward you multiple folds of it. Okay? See the beauty of it? Right. Then what about the second one? Why do you kill that boy who had no rhyme or reason? Then he said, that is because Allah knows that in the future, when this boy grew up, he is going to be causing suffering to his family. He's going to be a bad boy and he's going to cause the family pain. And the family is going to be also falling in sin because of him. But because the parents are good people, Allah wants to save them. Allah wants to give them a better son. So he had to take away this son to replace it with a better son. Okay. In fact, today, let me tell you, I have seen this happening. It's true. You know, in families, we love our children so much that sometimes we are even willing to sin for the sake of them. You know, yeah. I've seen families where, let's say, the son is a drug pusher, okay, and when he gets caught and he's bound for hanging, do you think the family will allow it? No. The family will fight, will, you know, spend hundreds and thousands of dollars to get a good lawyer to get him out of that situation. Okay, they will not consider that their son has done wrong and has to pay for it. He has been you know, a menace to society, has caused um, lives of so many people, destroyed the lives of so many families, you know, by pushing drugs, right? But yet when he has to be sentenced, his family will not allow it, and they will fight tooth and nail to get him free, you know. And is that fair? Is that right? Of course not. They will be sinning, because you remember during the prophet's time, prophet used to say, if any of his family members does any wrong, they will get double the punishment. Uh, Today we don't do that. We, if our family members have done something wrong, we try to hide it. We try to, you know, do another wrong to cover it, you know, right? Instead of putting our family members straight. Yeah. So this is a lesson also to be learned. Yeah. Right. So because they were good people, Allah wanted to give them a better son, and therefore He took away that son that He knew was going to be bad, right? And the third story, he says, why do you build the wall? He said, because Allah has told me that underneath the wall there are some treasures that belong to two young orphans. If we did not build this wall, people would have found this treasure, and the orphans will not be able to keep this treasure for themselves. Okay, this treasure was left by their father, who was a good man. All right, but they were too young to be able um, to hold on to this treasure. You know, the people would have just taken it, because as you know, the people in that village is not very good people. They're not very, you know, uh, I mean, Moses and Khidir had experienced, right, how they were treated by these people. So he says, you know, these people would take the wealth of these two orphans. Yeah. So by building the wall, nobody will find that wealth until the treasure, until these two boys grows up, and when they can protect, they can keep the wealth for themselves. Then Allah will make the wall crumble, and they will find that treasure that their father had left for them. So you see, because the father was a good man, Allah even protect his children, right? Uh, so you see, so from these three stories, I'm sure by now you can see, right, why sometimes bad things, things that seem bad in our eyes, will happen, uh, and we make judgment about it. Okay, can we go to the next slide, Oscar? Okay, so in the story of Moses, we learn about three things, three possible situations. You do good, but you don't get good in return. So this is the situation of the fishermen, right? They helped him, but then they broke his boat. So let's say the fisherman found out that Khidr had broke this boat. Do you think he would be very upset, like what today in today's world, if we did some good to somebody, and then after that we found that this person has backbite us, had, you know, talk bad about us or do bad things behind our back, we get very hurt, right? Uh, but sometimes we must know maybe there is a good reason for it. Yeah. Or if somebody refused to help us, or whatever the reason, or they do bad things to us, Don't always jump to conclusion. Yeah. No. Sometimes there is a reason why Allah allows. Even you're a good person, Allah allows bad things to happen. It may seem bad in our eyes at that time, right? To the fisherman, of course, he lost his boat and it was broken by people that he helped. Of course, his heart is broken. But we should not lose hope. He should say, well, Allah has allowed it to happen. I will accept it. Then Allah will, then later on, when he could fish and all that, when he looked back, then he says, oh my God, lucky that man broke the boat for me. Otherwise, my boat would have been confiscated and I wouldn't have. So sometimes in life also, you have to look back. All the bad things sometimes that had happened to you, you will find some goodness in it. I remembered when my father passed away when I was 12 years old. I felt very sad. I said, why do I have to lose my father at such a young age? It seemed like a bad thing because the family had struggled. But now on foresight, I find that it's a good thing that my father was taken away when we were young, because it made us really strong and good people. Because if he had been with us and we continued the lifestyle we had, we were very spoiled children. We had everything that we wanted. We do not know how to accept no. We do not know how to work hard. Okay, we might be lazy. We might be spoiled, right? But today, what we have become better people is because we had hardship during our childhood. Mm. So be thankful. Or when something bad happens to you, don't just get angry and think, why was this bad thing happen to me? Why? Don't question Allah. Allah has better plans for you. Allah know what is good for us. Okay. Now, the second thing, when you don't do anything, neutral, yet you get bad things happening to you. Right? In the case of the boy, they did not do any harm to Kidr or Moses or anything like that. I mean, he did not do any bad things to Moses, and yet he was being killed. Okay. Again, for the parents say, oh, parents might say, oh, why did we lose our son? Why, God, do you take away our son? You might be questioning and say, oh, this is unfair, this and that and so on. And we shouldn't do that, because you see, God wants to replace us with something better. Sometimes when we lose something, it's because he wants to replace us with something better, right? And this also reminds me in my life also. I'm telling you, at one time, I lost a job of a sales manager because I want to put on the tudong when I came back from Hajj, you know, and it was really heartbreaking because I did not do anything wrong. I was in the company for 20 years, and just because I wanted to put on the tudong, uh, I was not allowed, because they say that as a sales manager, I represent the image of the company, and therefore, this is not the image that they want to portray. So I lost that job, and I tell you, for 8 days, I was really crying because I was a breadwinner of the family, and I needed that job so badly. And I've worked for that job for 20 years to build my career, and it was just taken away within 24 hours. Yeah. So you see, I would have lost hope, but no, I felt that because I was wearing the tudong to obey God's laws, I'm sure God will help me. And true enough, within 8 days, I lost the job of a sales manager. I was given a job of general manager. I was offered that job. So you see, sometimes when bad things happen to you, don't, don't, don't question Allah. Don't be, yes, we will be depressed, we'll be sad, but know at the back of your mind that if you're not doing something wrong, that you've done something good, you've done something for Allah's sake, Allah will reward you in multiples. Okay, right. And the last in story, okay, when people do bad to you, you can return them in good. Bad people sometimes get good things. And then sometimes we see this and we say, oh, it's so unfair. This guy is terrible. But how come he's got a good life? He's got everything all given to him, and he's not punished for it. But don't worry, Allah knows, and Allah will punish in good time. Okay? So, or, there is a reason why He allows them to still do bad things. Why? Maybe He wants to get himself caught, right? Because He says, Allah says, if somebody is doing bad, and if somebody advises them and still they do not want to follow, well, one day they will get caught themselves, and it will really get them into real trouble. Okay, so we see. All right, so let's go to the next step. What do we learn also from this? Number one, as I mentioned to you earlier, attaining wisdom is not just through reading or acquiring knowledge. You sometimes need to acquire wisdom through experience. So that's why sometimes we have to go through hard times in life to go through personal experience. Then we will remember it. You see? Yeah. Okay. Acquiring wisdom also needs patience. Yeah. So you see, sometimes we are always impatient. Every time when we're in trouble, we say, oh, why, God? Please take this away from me. Quick, resolve this problem. So, no, must have patience. In good time, Allah knows when is the best time to give us what we need. Okay? Okay. And not everyone is given all knowledge. Don't think that, oh, I'm a professor, I know everything, so I can solve every problem. No, maybe sometimes your student has better answers than you as a professor, right? Sometimes you should learn from them. Yeah. So whatever knowledge you have, you should still have humility to learn from others. Next slide. We cannot judge a situation without knowing the background. You see, we always jump to conclusion, right? When we see something, straight away, like Moses, when he saw something wrong happen, oh my God, why is God so unfair? I remembered, some people said, where is God? I saw a movie about in Africa, and there was, this movie, and the hero said, well, God has already left you all. How can he say such a thing? God never leaves, never be what? Be so what never leave those he loved. Okay, right? He never leave them as long as they have faith in him, right? So don't judge a situation without knowing the background, like Moses did, right? Our knowledge is limited to time and space, right? So you see, Moses did not know what's going to happen. Similarly, like now, we don't know what's going to happen when something bad happens to us. Okay, we do not know why, or maybe there is some. There is a saying. There's always a silver lining to every cloud. There's a silver lining, right? And also in life, there is always the two parts. There's got to be good and bad. If you only have good times, you will never know what is bad times. If you only have happiness, you never had sadness, you don't know what is happiness even. If you always if you're born rich, let's say, and you don't have to work for anything, then you don't value your wealth until it's taken away from you. All right? Whereas a person who has to work for it will value it more, right? Okay. So knowledge is limited to time and space. So don't be judgmental and says, why do you do this? Why is this? Why is that? Okay, in good time, Allah will tell you. And know that Allah is always loving and merciful. Nothing from Him is bad, although it may seem in our eyes. If those of you who have listened to my first lesson about Adam and Satan, and how Satan has asked Allah, to be able to trick man, okay, and so on and so forth. Why? Because, right? Because Allah is loving and merciful. Sorry, yeah. So we must know that. So we know that nothing bad comes from Allah. Everything, although it may seem bad in our eyes, in all that three stories that I've told you earlier, it seems bad, right? Things happen, it's not fair, it's bad. But you see, Allah is so loving and merciful that after, when you know the background, you see how great Allah is. When you do just a small little bit of goodness, He rewards you multifolds. Okay? So remember that always, that life is also a test. Whether we are successful or whether we fail in life depends on how we handle the test, right? Well, even in school today, if you want to be upgraded from primary 1, you want to enter university, can you just go to the university? No. Every year you have to sit for a test. And when you sit for a test, when you pass the test, then only you'll be upgraded. So similarly in life too, Allah will upgrade you at every level when He gives you a test. Okay? He only gives a test to people He feels that can take the test and will pass the test. All right? Yeah. And whether we pass or we fail in the test will depend on how we handle it. If you don't study for exam, do you think you can pass? No. Right? So do you think you should be upgraded? You should go up to the next level? No. You don't deserve it. Right? So similarly, life, you should do that. You should, we need to take tests. We need to have tests in our lives, because only with tests we can be upgraded. Only with tests that we can be closer to Allah. Okay? In fact, let me tell you that there is, whenever Allah gives us a test, there's only because of three reasons. Number one, whenever He gives us a hardship, there's always three reasons. One is because He wants to upgrade us. He wants to give us something better. In order to give us something better, we need to work for it. We need to be tested. Like for example, if you want to promote somebody, right? You need to test him first whether he's capable for the job or not. Right? You need to try him out first. Uh, Number two is, maybe it's a wake up call. Maybe somebody has been doing bad things all his life. Like, for example, someone has been smoking all his life and he doesn't realize that smoking is going to cause him harm. So one day he started coughing, and then he goes to the doctor and says, oh, your lungs is infected, you got TB or you got cancer. Then only he realized he's been doing something bad, right? Okay. So we must always take it with a positive. Whenever God gives us a test, it is for our own good. All right? It's because He wants to upgrade us, He wants to awaken us from our mistake, and He wants to bring us closer to Him. Okay? Because when we don't have tests in life, when life is very easy and happy and great, do you remember God? Seldom. We only remember Him when in trouble, right? So don't wait till you're in trouble to remember Him. If you remember Him constantly, then He will give you less trouble. Because He knows, even He doesn't give you problems, you are always in touch with Him. So if you want less problems, always be in touch with Allah. Okay, with that, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I hope you have learned from this session. You have enjoyed this session. And I hope you will share this session with your friends who may be may have this idea that why are bad things happening to them? Why do they have to suffer? Tell them the story. Perhaps it will bring them hope. All right. And also, I hope one day this story gets into the ears of my good old friend Victor Esguerra. If he's out there somewhere in the world, if he hasn't found the answer yet, well, hopefully this is the answer. Okay, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Look out for next Wednesday. We shall have another session. There'll be a few sessions, more stories from the Prophet. We will do the Surah Kaf, okay, about the youth in the cave, all right, the sleepers of the cave, right, and the lessons to be learned. This series, I'm actually telling stories, either stories of the prophets, of stories of the Quran, to teach us what could we learn from these stories? What does Allah wants us to know from these stories? All right. If you have any questions, I hope in somehow to this tape or video that you can contact me at you can Google my biodata Latifah Abdullah Tamerlane or Latifah Tamerlane, um, and my telephone number will be there. Hopefully, my email address also will be there, so you can ask if you have any burning questions to ask, inshallah. Or you can join us in the next session, and inshallah, maybe the answers will be there. Okay. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And see you next week.